What happened to Gulag survivors? What really happened to those who survived the Gulag system? The Gulag was a network of forced labor camps in the Soviet Union, especially during Joseph Stalin's rule. After Stalin passed away in 1953, many survivors were released. This was part of a broader movement known as Destalinization. This movement aimed to address the past injustices through mass amnesties. However, life after the Gulag was not easy for many survivors. Some were able to return to their old jobs and regain their social status. But this was not the case for everyone. The Soviet government did attempt to rehabilitate many survivors. This meant that some had their unjust convictions overturned and their legal rights restored. Sadly, for many, this rehabilitation came too late. A lot of victims had already died in the camps or were executed before they could be freed. Even for those who were rehabilitated, the challenges continued. Survivors did not receive any psychological support for the trauma they went through. The Soviet state kept a tight lid on discussions about the horrors of the Gulag. This silence lasted for decades. Because of this, many survivors had to deal with their experiences alone. They received little public recognition or help for the stress they faced after their releases. Some survivors also faced ongoing restrictions. Those who were not rehabilitated remained under suspicion. They often needed special permits just to return to their home regions or cities. In some cases, they were not allowed to go back to their former homes, especially in larger cities. Interestingly, the Soviet government did rehabilitate certain minority groups that had been forcibly moved under Stalin. These groups were allowed to return to their original areas and sometimes had their regional autonomy restored. In summary, while Gulag survivors were released and sometimes legally rehabilitated, their return to everyday life was often difficult. They faced social stigma, a lack of psychological care, and ongoing restrictions. The government's approach reflected a desire to move on from the past without fully acknowledging the suffering caused by the Gulag system. This complex situation highlights the gap between the ideals of the Soviet government and the harsh realities faced by those who survived the camps.